Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is clang, and this verb was suggested by the viewer Artem. Artem, I'm very grateful for your suggestions and for all the great creative examples you share in the comments. Now, let's take a moment and review some of the definitions or the ways that you could use this verb clang. The most common way to see or hear the verb clang used means to either make or to cause something to make a loud, deep, and clear metallic sound. Thought about how I could try and produce this for you in my home office, and I think I have something that's a little bit close. So, right, that tone may be a little higher than I wish, but hopefully you can hear kind of that metallic sound to it. Hopefully also not too loud that it's giving anyone a problem there, but that is really the most common way you will hear and see this verb used. A second way you may encounter it can mean for a bird to utter or make a rather harsh cry. This is not quite as common. You will hear people talk about birds chirping rather regularly. Hearing them clang, not quite as common, at least the people I'm around who enjoy birding. But you may see it in some literature to kind of paint that picture in your mind. For now, you should know that clang is a regular verb. If you want to make the progressive form of this verb, all you need to do is add ing, and that forms clanging. The past tense and the participle form of our verb can be made by adding ed. Our base verb, clang, ends in a voiced sound. That ng is making a voice sound. So that means our ed ending is just going to make a d sound. And we're not going to add an extra syllable to the word when we say it. The past tense and the participle form of the verb should sound like this. Clanged, clanged. Now, I don't have any phrasal verbs for us to study today, so we'll move on and do a little verb tense practice. Today, we're going to review the simple past tense and the simple present. Let's start with the past tense. We use this verb tense to talk about completed actions that occurred at a known point in the past. Sometimes you'll notice time signals. Those could be references to specific dates or time periods in the past, like 2 weeks ago, right? But not every sentence in the simple past tense will have a time signal. The nice thing about making sentences in the simple past tense is that our structure to our sentences will stay the same no matter what our subject is. So in the affirmative, you'll see subject and then the ed form of our verb. Let's take a look at our example. The 37-yard field goal clanged off the right upright and went through. I borrowed this sentence from a recap of an American football game. If you're a little unfamiliar with those, at the ends of each field are these sort of like U-shaped metal posts, and at various points throughout the game, you will see people try and kick the football through those uprights, and sometimes it hits, and it generally makes that deep metallic sound. You'll notice other examples of this verb used in sports, again, many times when a ball or maybe a puck is striking something that's metal, and that's going to produce that sound. Now, if you want to make a negative simple past tense sentence, what you want to do is start with your subject, use did not, and then the base verb. Notice I'm not using the ed form of the verb here. Let's look at another example. The pressure washer's jet of water didn't clang off the testing surfaces. This is someone reviewing various types of power washers, and this was meant to be a compliment, right? We're not getting these sort of loud, repetitive sounds. Now, let's look at making a yes or no question in the simple past tense. To do this, start with did, then you'll have your subject, and then the base verb. Again, we're not using the ed form of our verb in our yes or no questions. Here's another example. Did the trolley clang as it rolled into the station? So again, we're kind of asking about that, making that metallic sound. Now, let's move on and talk a little bit about the simple present. We use this verb tense to talk about our habits and routines. This is a verb tense where we must pay attention to our subject. If our subject is I, you, we, or they, we'll just use the base verb and no suffixes or no special endings to the verb. But if your subject is he, she, or it, you want to add an S to the end of this verb, and you can see that in my example here. The musician clangs on the cymbals every other note. Now this sounds like a little bit of a criticism, right? That maybe there's too many or too much of this deep metallic sort of sound in this particular performance. Now let's look at making negative simple present sentences. Again, pay attention to your subject. If your subject is I, you, we, or they, use do not and then the base verb. But if your subject is he, she, or it, use does not and then the base verb. Here's another example. The dog toy is made of soft food-grade plastic, so it doesn't clang against your floors all day. Again, I would say the person writing this is trying to present a positive feature about this particular toy. You're not going to get a lot of deep metallic sounds as the dog plays with this particular toy. Now let's look at making a yes or no question in the simple present. To do this, start with do or does, then we'll have our subject, and then the base verb. Here's another example. Does this seat clang off the bumpers on moderate-sized drops? I saw a question very similar to this posed in a forum looking at various mountain bikes. And again, kind of wanting to know if this, as someone jumps and sort of lands, makes contact, right? Are you going to get this loud metallic sound? Now, let's spend a moment and look at some words that are related to our verb clang. And the first word we'll discuss is just the noun form of the word. The noun clang has the exact same spelling and the exact same pronunciation as our verb. When we use this word as a noun, we're generally referring to a loud, deep, and clear metallic sound, or we might be referring to a series of sounds. An example of this might be, the celebratory clangs and chimes from the bell atop main building rang out at noon. Again, you might be able to kind of envision or imagine these long, deep sounds. Another word you might encounter is the noun clangor. This is generally referring to continuous, loud banging or ringing sounds. An example of this, someone might ask, where's all the clangor coming from? Right? They want to know what's producing or what's making these loud banging or ringing sounds. Well, thanks again to Artem for suggesting today's verb. I thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.